A quick note before we get into the episode. Oversharing is a podcast for entertainment purposes only. It is not a medical podcast and does not constitute medical or psychological advice. Always seek the advice of your physician or mental health professional. Let's do some intentions. I will read this email. This is a common one we get, so I think this will be helpful for a lot of people. Hi, Jordana and Dr. Naomi. I'm hoping you can help me set an intention for navigating postpartum anxiety about my appearance. I have a 7-month-old, and while I lost most of my pregnancy weight, my body has still changed. I'm softer and squishier on my stomach, and I have some stretch marks, and I'm breastfeeding and have noticed more weight around my upper body area, and things aren't as lifted as they were before. Some tops and outfits I just can't wear because I need access to breastfeed my baby. My pre-pregnancy jeans fit, but dig into my sides, making a muffin top appearance. And when I have tried on a size up, I feel like they don't fit properly elsewhere and that they fit strangely around my stomach that makes me look like I could still be pregnant. It makes finding clothes to wear difficult because I feel like I don't look good in anything, and it makes me not even want to see people or go out in public. I've left the house thinking I look okay before, but then caught a glimpse of my reflection while out and immediately wanted to go home because I didn't like what I saw. I just don't know how to dress my body besides in leggings and stretchy athletic shorts and a giant t-shirt to hide myself. Even then, I feel like if I wear something oversized, I look frumpy. But if I wear something tighter, you can see every roll and bulge. I feel like because I had a baby, my appearance is more under a microscope by others, which is contributing to my anxiety. I also have had body image issues with my appearance in the past from being bullied by my sister and her friends when I was a kid, and I feel like some of those same feelings are what I'm now feeling. I have bought some new clothes and I exercise and do small things that make me feel good in other ways, and while I'm proud of my body for what it has done in sustaining and building life, I like clothes too. LOL. I have a therapist I just haven't been able to chat with since I had my baby. Maybe I'm putting too much of my value into my appearance and this all sounds shallow, but I'm having a hard time with this. I'd love to hear what you come up with for me. In the meantime, if this makes it onto the pod, Dr. Naomi, have you had any similar feelings after having children of your own? Thanks. A Betch who just wants to feel confident in her body again.
Yes, I have had this. I remember, this just happened maybe a month ago. And, Maddie comes up to me and she's like, so when did your boobs get saggy?
She's worried for herself.
She's just kind of trying to play it forward. Like how much time, she doesn't even have boobs yet. And she's worried about them getting saggy. Yeah. But it was like that question of like, okay, I guess that's just the definition of what's happening at this point. And so, yeah, your body does change. It's going to change. And I think it is hard to get to that place where you kind of accept it for what your new body is instead of trying to make it go back to the body that it was before, because it might not. It might. Some people do, but like it might not. And I think it's kind of a microcosm for everything in life, which is that like everything changes. And if we're clinging to this one, way that we're deciding it's going to be, you're probably going to end up unhappy. And it works. It's the same thing for anything. Like I want to meet my husband and be married by the time I'm 28. It's like, that's the way that you think it should be. And it's probably not going to be that way. So if you keep trying to force that thing of like, I need to get back to this body that I was before, you're probably going to end up disappointed. So I think a lot of this is about accepting your new shape. And a lot of that is mental. She talks obviously about her sister and the friends bullying her. That's the voice in your head.
Right.
When you're looking in the mirror and you're making whatever comments you're making, it's like that voice is embedded in your mind.
And the societal voices, I do think like a lot of people, when they give birth, you do hear a lot of people commenting, oh, she looks great. She gave birth however long ago, you look great. You look, you know what I mean?
What does that mean? It means you look like you looked before. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, it's fun. This is the kind of thing that I think is usually said in a positive light to a lot of people. But if you hear that and you see that, even if it's not at you, you hear other people say it to other people. I think there is this feeling of, people are noticing one way or another.
Right.
There are people who look great, and then there's people who no one says anything to.
Right. Totally. I do wish it could be like most people, a lot of people have issues around like this round, soft, squishy belly. That is like a bad thing and they don't want it. And it's like that midsection thing that is what a lot of people focus on. So, or whatever your own personal
Tightness, I've heard, is like not
right.
quite there.
Right. So
The
it's
lifted
like,
in the tightness or whatever.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where it's like in a different context, like soft and squishy is like nice and warm and, round. It's like round or big or soft or squishy. Like, why do these have to be bad words about your belly? Like, bellies are kind of supposed to be round and
Right.
soft and squishy. Some people don't have that, but I think typically that's more like the normal female shape is to have like some roundness around the belly area.
Right. Well, like she said, it's like this is what happens when your body does, which, is something that is biologically like that it's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's had a baby, it birthed the baby, and now it looks different.
Yeah.
And she talks a lot about clothes, which I think is an important thing because she has a new body than she had before she had a baby, right? That's sort of, she's saying she lost the weight. It's the body that's different. That's probably not going to be changed fully back to the way it was unless she had some sort of surgery or something like that. So let's say she has this new body. And she talks a lot about how like she wears clothes that are big and then she feels frumpy, or she wears clothes that are tight and then she feels large. I think it is, you spend most of your life figuring out what looks good on you in the body that you have growing up.
Yes.
And now you have a new body. And I think the idea that you're going to magically immediately know how to dress this new body probably adds to your stress and your anxiety that you're like, nothing looks good. It's like, no, maybe you just haven't fully figured out what's going to make you feel good and confident in this new body of yours. And it's a little bit of trial and error and finding the top with the right shape that you feel good in. And I think that, it's been 7 months. It hasn't been 7 years.
Yeah,
like, I think give
she's
yourself
very
some
early on too.
Yeah. Give yourself some time to like figure out what kind of tops you do get excited in going out. And I do feel for her that she's like, she doesn't even want to leave the house because she has this feeling of, I'm not excited to go out. I don't feel good in my skin.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really hard. The tough part is like, she's going to have these thoughts. She's recognizing them, which is important. You're going to have these thoughts about, your body or negative, or my belly is too round, or, this is squishy and this isn't tight. And like, you're going to have that thought. But I think it's important to recognize that you're having that thought and challenge it. Like, not just accept that as a reality that you have this thought and now you have to internalize it, like challenging your mindset instead of just accepting your mindset. But yeah, the clothes thing is hard because what happens is every day you wake up and you put on these clothes, like you said, that fit your old shape or that you're trying to fit your new shape, but they don't really work. I mean, I'll be honest with you, just personally, I've said this to you before. Since having my kids, I rarely wear pants that have like a button and a zipper and like are not elastic, because I just find that when I pull on elastic pants, I don't have to stress about it like pinching me or hitting in the wrong spot and look, we can talk to a stylist about this. I'm not a stylist, but I do think that there's something about wearing something that's so like one size that draws your attention every time you get dressed in the morning to whether it's like a symbolic of like fitting into this exact size that I bought, whether it's 5 years ago or 5 weeks ago or 5 days ago, and now you're bloated. It's like a checking that every time you get dressed, you're like checking your body size, versus if you buy something that's elastic, which is, I think, why the athletic shirt took off, because it has these nice, big, thick, wide waistbands. You could yank it up a little, you could pull it down a little, and it's not like this constant check-in of whether or not you're the same you were yesterday or the day before or the week before. So I really like the idea of not having your
closer.
clothes be like your meter for the day of how you should feel about yourself.
Well, it's like the clothes are changing to form whatever your body feels like that day, as opposed to you kind of having to squeeze into the clothes.
Yes. So that's my own personal tip that I feel like has been helpful, is like a pair of elastic waist pants. One day, they're a 10, the next day they're a 12, and you don't really know the difference or feel the difference but yeah, I think this is hard, and you're going to have to make up your mind to challenge your thoughts and accept this new shape. And when I do meditation with people, one of the things I love to do is have them put their hands on their belly and breathe into a big, round, soft belly. So you can kind of just really accept that there is beauty and breath and mindfulness and pleasure and pleasantness and accepting in a round, softened belly, that this washboard abs thing isn't the only way to exist and love yourself.
Yeah. I love that.
The intention that I wrote for her is very kind of short and sweet, and I think it's helpful for anyone who's experiencing this, is challenge my mind, accept my body. So your mind, whether it's the voices of society or these girls that bullied you or your mother or your grandmother or your dad or whoever put this into your head, commercials, Victoria's Secret fashion show comments, those voices create the inner dialogue in your mind, and challenge that, notice it and challenge that while you're accepting this new shape that, like you said, has brought life into the world, and you're sustaining that life and you're breastfeeding. So that, it's so beautiful. It's so much bigger than just your body. Yeah. I know that she knows that, but sometimes it's hard to remember it.
Yeah. And her body is also this isn't the last shape her body's going to be in. Yeah. I think.
Yeah. It's going to continue to change again. Hence my saggy boobs. They keep dropping and dropping.
Keep getting lower and lower. Yeah. So, and I think that's almost the hard part. Everyone wants a set, this is what it is.
Yes.
And it's hard because, especially in this period, I'm sure after postpartum, where her body now probably looks different than it did a month ago. Yes. And it probably will still look different a month from now.
Yes. I know what you meant. What you meant by that was it could change in a way that might make you feel, that might be easier for you to accept.
It could be.
But it might change in a way that's harder for you to accept. The challenge is in accepting your body shape the way that it is, and challenge the thoughts that make your body not feel okay to you.
All right, let's do some triggers.
All right, I will read the first one.
It's a long one.
This is a long one. Buckle up. Here we go. Dear Jordana and Dr. Naomi, I love the pod. I've been a listener since the beginning, and I am a U Up subscriber. I have a triggered scenario for you, an important context that all ties into this. I'll try and keep it concise, but there's years worth of build up to the trigger. Here we go. We're here for it. I have a friend, we'll call her Katie, who I used to be really close with. We both had our first baby in the pandemic, and we became really close friends and texted all the time. Then we get together with our babies as often as we could when lockdown lifted. She lives about an hour away, but texted constantly about dumb stuff and deep stuff. The only sport I follow is Formula One, which I've been into since 2015. It has become really popular in the US because of the Netflix series about it. I got Katie watching the Netflix show. She loved it. And I taught her all about the rules and the history of the sport that you don't get from the show. Since then, she's been a fan and watches all the races. When Katie was pregnant with her second baby in 2022, her husband, let's call him Steve, began exhibiting what would be eventually diagnosed as bipolar 2, where he gets manic episodes but not depressive ones. During his manic episodes, he would basically become a different person and become emotionally abusive or leave the house for days. About a year and several episodes later, Steve finally got on meds at work for him, and he hasn't had an episode in over a year. But in the process of getting him on meds, they discovered that he has a genetic blood and bone marrow cancer. In the fall of 2023, Katie and I decided to do a girls' trip the following year in October 2024 to the Formula One race in Austin, Texas. We made this plan after Steve's cancer diagnosis. We bought weekend tickets, about $400 each. Fast forward to summer of 2024, Katie stopped responding to my texts. Since Steve's diagnosis, Katie had been texting less and gotten off social media and said she'd been avoiding her phone because of anxiety, which was understandable with so much to process. But then she fully stopped responding. I was worried about her and for over 2 months regularly sent texts checking in with no response. I have pages and pages of unanswered messages. This was also the time when we needed to look at flights and hotels for our trip or to cancel the trip if it wasn't going to happen, but no response on any of it. I eventually messaged Katie's mom via Facebook to see if she was okay. Her mom said she was in good spirits but wasn't really being social and that it wasn't personal to me. After months of not hearing from Katie, I made the call to sell the tickets and Venmo'd Katie her half. No response to the Venmo. I was fine with canceling the trip because I ended up being pregnant with my due date a month after the trip would have been. It was a whoops pregnancy. But I was really irritated with her basically ghosting me on our plans. I empathized with her anxiety, but all I needed was a text saying she needed to cancel the trip. Eventually, Katie got back on her phone and thanked me for selling the tickets and said sorry for being MIA and was hoping I wasn't mad. She said other people were mad when she reached out, which made her get off her phone again. I was mad, but I was also sympathetic and didn't want to pile on, so I said it was okay and I understood and was just glad to hear from her. Now the triggered. Thanks for bearing with me. We gotcha.
Context's important.
Yes.
I'll give her that,
yeah. Last weekend, Katie said she was staying at her mom's with the kids for the weekend in my city and asked if we wanted to go to the zoo. She said Steve was hanging out with friends and having a weekend off from the kids. At the zoo, I asked if she ever gets days off, breaks from the kids, and she said yes. In fact, in August, she's going to Europe for 2 weeks on a girls' trip, and they are going to the F1 race in Amsterdam. She said after I got her into F1, she joined an online chat group for women F1 fans and made a group of friends, and she and 4 other girls are going to Paris, London, and Amsterdam for the race. I told her I was excited for her, even though it kind of hurt. She responded, "Why? Oh, because our trip didn't happen?" I was so triggered. I've attached screenshots of the text that followed later that evening. Even though she technically apologized, I'm still really hurt and irritated. She never responded to my last text, and it's been 3 days now. So how triggered can I be? Curious to see what you make of this. Thanks for staying with me. In the long email, sincerely, left in the dust.
Okay. So do you want to be the listener writing in or Katie?
I will be the listener writing in. These photos are so cute. It was good to see you. I appreciated you getting in touch.
Sorry to be insensitive sharing about the upcoming trip. I cherish our friendship and was bummed our own friendship didn't get to happen and hope we can do it one day for real.
I appreciate you acknowledging it. I wasn't sure if I wanted to say anything. To be honest, it did really hurt my feelings. It felt really shitty to hear that you've created a community without me around something that I originally shared with you and then seemed to prioritize these newer friendships over ours. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying that's how it felt. I know you were struggling with your mental health last year and that your lack of contact wasn't personal to me, and you explained that, but it was really tough to have to make the call to cancel the trip and figure out what to do about the tickets by myself. So then hearing that you planned the same trip, but bigger with other people less than a year later kind of made me feel like shit.
Yeah, I was honestly under the impression that it was canceled ages before as soon as you realized your due date. It seemed way too close to risk booking hotels and flights, etc.
Seems like we should have had a conversation about it because I would have been okay with canceling it for that reason, but was still down to go and wasn't automatically planning to cancel it. I tried to get in touch to have that conversation last fall, but never heard back.
Our friendship means a lot to me, and another little group of people is not meant to in any way to diminish or replace you. Honestly, it's kind of a relief that like only 2 of them even know about blank's cancer treatments, and I get to kind of just talk about how much Lance Stroll sucks at driving instead. Ha ha ha. Kind of nice to have a little escapism friendship group that occupies a different section of the brain, but you're buried much deeper in my heart.
Haha, I understand that. And I'm not saying I don't want you to have this other friend group. And I'm genuinely excited for you to have this trip away to be your own person away from all the other stuff. I feel like we don't talk about stuff the way we used to, and I miss it. I know you have a lot on your plate. I think about you guys a lot, but have wanted to give you space and not bring it up if you don't want to talk about it. I hope you know that I'm here for you if you ever do want to talk about anything. Dumb stuff, deep stuff, hard stuff. I'm here for it. I guess I have been a little unsure since the silence last summer about where things are between us, so I'm glad we're talking about it. I hope you can just see how the F1 thing just hit me sideways and poked at a sore spot.
Okay. So I do think the context of all of this is important. Seems like she's still pretty irritated at the friend after this. I think the main irritation comes from not double acknowledging how weird and irritating and messed up it was that she just didn't answer her for several months.
Yeah.
And it seems like she said that when she apologized for that originally, when she came back, she stopped speaking to other people who were like mad at her about it.
Right.
So it makes sense to me that she's like not answering this last text because she's like, I didn't really want to like, I said sorry. And now I'm like, I don't want to like get into it again.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard because it's kind of like she wants more of an addressing of the situation. I think what the listener wants is kind of like, we don't have to talk about this if you don't want to. Like if this is an escapism thing and you want to talk about F1 racing and not talk about cancer or what's going on, like I can do that. Like I could see her feeling like, I don't know why you need to just totally transfer to this other group. If you don't like, I'm here for whatever you want. We don't have to talk about it. We can talk about it. I could see why she's really hurt. And she didn't even invite her on the trip. Like,
right. I think the part about her introducing her to F1, not that relevant. Like, okay, you can find a new hobby.
You don't own it then at that point. Yeah.
Right. I would let go of that part that was like, oh, this was my hobby first. I would get rid of that. I think it's more like, you didn't even tell me, like we had this trip planned. I never heard from you. That's like kind of painful and logistically weird. I tried to get in touch with you. Like, I think she could say, like, I get why you didn't really want to speak to anyone. A text just saying that to me.
Mm-hmm.
And a text like explaining that would have been all I needed. And I do think that's like a little bit of a personality issue. If someone, it's okay to need space. It's okay to say, I don't really want to be like talking to anyone now. I'm not answering any texts. I'm not being on my phone, but say that. Don't just like disappear.
Yeah. Even if you say that and then disappear, I think is reasonable. You know, like just say that. And then after that, if you don't want to answer anything else, like, yeah, I could definitely see why she's hurt. I think even just the idea, I know you're saying like she doesn't own Formula One but like, I don't know, it's almost, you know, like if you, like we probably got a Taylor Swift email, like you talked about going to the concert together. You find out that someone's, even like you said, we were going to watch a show together and you find out that someone watched that show with someone else. It's like, hey, we were supposed to watch that together. Now you didn't answer me for months and now you're watching that show, going to that race with other people. I could see why she's really hurt. Look, give this friend some grace. She's going through like the worst possible thing.
Clearly quite avoidant.
Yeah, quite avoidant. I will say, I think this listener communicated herself really beautifully. Like, I like the way she expressed herself. I like the way she said, like, I'm here for you, whatever you need. Here's how I feel. She wasn't combative. I think right now your friend is just like, her tank is like totally empty. She cannot tolerate any more conflict or any of this, which is probably why she didn't reach back out. But yeah, this is triggering.
I also think there is a certain kind of person that doesn't maintain, like she said, they're not like childhood friends. They met in the pandemic, right? They met around this thing of having their kids together around not to diminish the depth or the meaning of their friendship, but I think it's more speaking to this person. And I think there are some people like that. It's not always obvious who they are, where they kind of cycle through friends because they don't really want to be like confronting anyone, or they don't want to work through an issue with someone, or they don't want to work through something. So they just find a new crew. It's almost like in dating where it's like the person doesn't want to like deal with the issues that they have with the person. So they just break up and date someone else.
Yes.
And
that
never
is a really
resolve
good
it.
point. I wonder if that is a pattern for this person. I do think there are people that are so avoidant that it's like, I'd rather just find new friends than like deal with the emotional baggage of maybe doing something that upsets somebody. Like I'd rather just avoid it and start fresh than have to handle that. That is a good point.
It does seem like that's what's happening because, again, not that that's so short ago, but they did meet in the pandemic. It's not like she knows her and she knows the way that her friend cycles work. And like that is a person. I've met this person before.
Yes.
And they have a lot of friendships, I think, that sort of cycle in and out.
Yes. And this group of friends, they probably have like no expectations of her. They're like, oh my God, the fact that we're even like meeting up one time ever in life is like the coolest thing. I have no expectations of you. Like if she never responded to them again, it would probably be like, okay, that was a girl that we once did that cool trip together. And that was like it.
Right. And I bet you if she gets into anything with any of them or has, it goes through anything on her own, the same thing's going to happen with this group. So it feels really personal. I agree. It's really triggering. The way that she's sort of like not fully acknowledging how weird it is that she was just completely avoided her. But I don't think it's personal.
Yeah, I agree. And, there's only one way to find out if this is your friend, and it's to have a conflict with them. And this is the interesting thing. I know maybe we'll just kind of tease it a little bit if we end up doing it, but I think sometimes we got an interesting email from a listener and they might want to come on the show perhaps about like, I want to confront this conflict with this person and they want to just sweep it under the rug and move on. And sometimes that just feels like I can't, like if you, instead of that last long paragraph would have written like, no problem, totally get it. You guys might be chit-chatting again and texting again, but because you like wanted to like kind of wrap it up and have some closure, now she feels like she's out again. And you like literally you might not hear from her again for months. I don't think it would be the craziest thing because that's what happened before. So I do think sometimes there's a compatibility factor with friendships of like, there are friendships like I'm willing to sweep it under the rug. You're willing to sweep it under the rug.
Right.
That's
this works
great.
For us.
This works for us. And when you have a conflict, I'm like, I'm willing to sweep it under the rug. I don't really like the feeling of sweeping things under the rug. Sometimes that can be friendship ending.
Yeah, that's a great point. And people don't talk about the nuanced dynamics of many different friendships, but I think this is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
And it happens in romantic relationships too, but with friends, it can feel a little bit more casual.
Yeah. And in the romantic relationship, I think people can stand a little taller and prouder of like, I'm addressing this because I need to be with a partner that knows how to communicate. And so like, I'm not going to second guess myself because everyone knows like communication is one of the most important things of like a, romantic partnership. So like, you could be like, if you're not communicating, you're the problem. But in these friendship situations, it might just be a little bit like, oh, that's not really their style.
Yeah. I have this friend, they don't really like to go there, but I have many other friends who do. Right. So it's fine. Yeah. Right. Agreed. I'd give this a 6.
Yeah, I agree. I just think just bearing it down to like, she didn't even tell her she was going to cancel. Then like right after she finds out, finally gets back in touch with her. She's like, not only did I not tell you about whether or not we were doing our trip, but I've booked an identical trip with a bunch of random people that I just met online.
Right.
So yeah, I agree. I'll give it a 6.
Yeah. At least like don't mention that the trip is about Formula One. Just say you're going on a trip with some friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like she's like a little oblivious to how rude that was.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do one more. We have a voicemail. And again, if you want to leave a voicemail, you can call 646-363-6294. Love a voicemail. Let's roll the tape.
Hi, Jordana and Dr. Naomi. I'm a big fan. I just wanted to call about something that I ran into this weekend. So my boyfriend and I share a birthday, so we got a hotel in a big city near us and went to dinner and had a whole fun planned night. So another side story, I started a GLP-1 about 2 months ago, and I've lost 22-ish pounds, and I was kind of talking about it, how I was happy, and I said to my boyfriend, is it noticeable? And he said, not really. And of course, I have had 2 or 3 drinks by this point, start crying at the dinner, embarrassingly. And we get in a whole, not fight, but I'm upset the whole night, and it affects the whole night, where I'm very sensitive about this topic, and he was saying to me, his message he was trying to get across is it's not that it's not noticeable, it's that he didn't see anything wrong with my body to start, so he wasn't super hyper aware of what looks smaller or checking out my body every time I change to see if I'm looking any skinnier. So he just said he honestly hasn't been paying attention. And to me, that was very triggering, because I was kind of thinking like, oh, I need to work harder. It's not noticeable. Like, I'm a failure, blah, blah, blah. And basically, I just ruined the whole night. We went back to the hotel, and I was crying, and it just caused a whole hour-and-a-half long conversation, going in circles. And yeah, then of course I felt really guilty for it affecting the night and his birthday. Yeah, we were going to go out for drinks and kind of bar hop together, and the whole plan just kind of got ruined. So I felt so much guilt then. So there was just a lot of layers in that. And yeah, I was definitely very triggered. I know it's a lot of me projecting in my own problem, but I'm really curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for the voicemail.
Yeah.
This is a good one.
I love voicemails. I love hearing, like, it sounds like maybe Midwestern accent or Canadian or something. It's super cute. Love hearing your voice. Yeah, this is interesting, because I definitely get her perspective of like, I'm doing all this, I want you to notice it. But I also think it's kind of sweet that he's like, I'm not like hyper like analyzing the shape and size of your body. Like, I look at you, I think you're beautiful. He didn't say this, but I'm assuming if they're together, like,
right,
he's attracted to her. Like, it is a good example of like, we are so hard on ourselves and like examining like every little bit of like how something looks and fits and feels. And someone who you're physically intimate with is just like, I'm not thinking about all the nitty gritty details of your body. I'm just like being with you and enjoying you.
Right. Yeah, I see both ways, because I think it's a little bit damned if you do, damned if you don't, where he's like, yeah, you look so much better than you did a few months ago. Like, you look amazing. Like, that might reinforce this feeling of, you know, he was unattracted to me before and he just didn't say anything. And now, like, I do think you could sort of spiral from any answer about this question. So I do feel for men a little bit around this topic, because it is a little bit of a damned if you do, damned if you don't notice these kinds of things a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I do understand the triggered aspect of where she is, where she's like, I'm working so hard at this thing. And one of the things about, obviously you want to look the way you want to look for yourself, but you're in a like romantic sexual partnership. And I do think there's this idea of like, being attractive to your partner is not something that's not part of the reason that you're doing this. And I think it's motivating to hear from your partner that you look really good and that you see all the work that you're doing, and it, you look amazing, and I'm so attracted, and blah, blah, blah. And, I'm so in awe of how much work you put into this and all that stuff. Like, I do think being recognized is like part of the motivation that she has for doing this. So when he's like, yeah, I don't even really like think about what you look like, it can feel like, well, now I don't feel motivated, or now I don't feel seen for how much work I put into this thing, and that's kind of a thing in relationships, I think, where it's like one person cares a lot about this thing. And so you want the partner to value what you do, even if they just don't really value it as much, because it's part of what you're bringing to the table, in a sense, in your mind.
Right. I get that point. I do. I get that point. And maybe the only thing I think he probably could have done better is to say that, like, I'm so attracted to you. I think you're so beautiful. I thought you were beautiful then. I think you're beautiful now. But I do think it comes back to the conversation we were having before about the postpartum body, where it's like, if someone says like, oh my gosh, oh, you just had a baby, you look great, then there's this feeling of like, I have to maintain this. Or people that lose weight and someone's like, oh, you look amazing. And it's like, that's not always helpful. Yes, it acknowledges that you've worked hard,
right,
and that you're putting effort, but then it's like, if I stop, then are they going to think I look great? So I like the boyfriend's response. I think his response is like, if you want to do this for you, it makes you feel better when you zip up your pants or you like catch yourself in a mirror. That's great. But for me, like, I was attracted to you before. I'll be attracted to you if you go back to that weight or that size or whatever it is. Like, this isn't an issue for me. Like, I kind of like the way you look no matter what. So I get what you're saying, that it's sort of like you want your effort to be acknowledged, but I think I think if she could shift her mind to think, this is so sweet. It's a low pressure situation. Like, if you wanted to stop taking the medicine or you want to go back to the way you were before, that he's not going to.
Yeah. And I agree. In a long-term partner, it's not great to have your body be micromanaged by your partner.
Right.
Of like, oh yeah, I noticed that your clothes weren't fitting the same way as they like. That does feel stifling, and I think a little anxiety ridden to the idea that someone you're with is hyper fixated on small changes in your body. Not that this is small, but I can see the other way too.
Yeah. Or even like that feeling of like, oh, you lost weight or this or that, and they're like super into you now. It's kind of like, oh, well, if I'm not, or if I change, like, now you're going to change how attracted you are, or how often you want to have sex or be intimate, or
right.
So I get it. I get that you're working hard at this and you're proud of yourself and you kind of want him to be proud of you. And maybe if I was talking to him, I'd be like, maybe address the effort as like one separate thing. Like, I admire the effort that you've put into this, but the actual outcome, like, I'm just as attracted to you. And I think this is a thing that people, assume, and this is for like any relationship, but I think specifically in heterosexual relationships, that like you assume that your partner wants you to be like smaller, and smaller is better. Like, a lot of people, like we were talking about a few minutes ago, don't mind a round and squishy.
Right.
They kind of like it. They feel like it's womanly and shapely and soft and feminine or whatever. So I would take it if that's what you're getting. I validate the hard work that he's maybe not acknowledging that, or maybe you just feel like unnoticed in general, and that might be a different issue. Like, if you just generally feel like my boyfriend's like not paying any attention to me, that he doesn't even,
or is he attracted to me? Or
right. Like, you get a haircut and they don't notice. It's like, you're not even looking at me. That doesn't feel good. Like, I want to feel like there's an intention there. Yeah. Right. So that part I could definitely validate if it's like, oh, I didn't even notice, like you went from like brunette to blonde. Oh, I didn't even notice. It's like, what?
Right.
Are you even looking at me?
Well, that's kind of, I think that's a bigger part than maybe we're acknowledging, like, to an extent.
Yeah. So maybe and again, if there is that bigger issue in this relationship where you feel like he's not even paying attention to you, or maybe he's not initiating sex, or maybe he's not saying nice things or giving you compliments or affirmation, I would address that separately from the weight issue. I think the way he handled the weight issue, like, I like it. You look great before, you look great now. You want to go back to how you were before, I'd be perfectly fine with it. But I think if it is this bigger issue, like he doesn't even notice me or look at me or like say nice things.
Well, that's sort of what he said, is I didn't really even notice. Like, if he had said, you look great, I thought you looked great before, not like, oh, you did lose 22, but like, I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. So that might be the issue. Like, I think there is this thing in a couple relationship where like you take off your clothes and get in the shower and you're like, are you noticing like that I'm naked? Do you care? Are you interested? Like, so yeah, I could see that probably is a bigger part of this, but I think that can be a separate issue that maybe you address than like the weight issue. Is like, are you looking at me? Are you noticing me? Are you sexually attracted to me?
Right. And maybe that's what she's feeling. Yeah. But a few drinks in, she just hears, I didn't notice. And that's triggering.
Yeah. No, I definitely validate her being triggered by this. But I think the fact that she doesn't have a pressure to stay this way is really nice.
I agree. I'd give it a 4.
Yeah. I give it a 4 with the idea that this is like information for you and him to maybe have a different conversation of like, I would like to feel like, maybe you
Acknowledged,
verbalize more that
seen.
like, yeah, yep, that you see me, that you're attracted to me, that you notice things about how I look that you like. So yeah, this is a good information for a conversation.
Agreed. All right. Well, this was great. We helped some people. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Hope this helps. We love updates. Give us updates. And if you're interested in coming in and having a real life conversation with us, we are interested in talking to you too. So hit us up. But for now, that's our time.
Great work today.